What a privilege and what a pleasure it is to have this chance to talk to you about a number of things. I want to talk to you not just about marketing. And to understand marketing, you have to know these other things. You have to know what economics is. You have to know what innovation is, what creativity is. So let me give you a picture, what I call a big picture, and then we'll get to the fine points of marketing. My own experience is that I'm an economist. I was trained at the University of Chicago by Milton Friedman, and anyone who was trained by him automatically becomes a free market economist, where government should be out of the picture and business can do whatever it wants. And that worked for a good while. But I took my PhD work afterwards with Paul Samuelson, and who's also a Nobel Prize economist and a Keynesian. And I was convinced by Paul that economics has a role to play, especially in recessions, to kickstart the economy. You don't let an economy keep dying in recession, people getting poor, sort of assuming that when they get poor enough, the economy will pick up. Instead, you kickstart it. You use a tax. You use the whole apparatus of money and taxes to kickstart the economy. So I should have been not here for marketing. I should have been here for economics. How did I end up choosing marketing rather than economic theory? The answer is that I became disillusioned with economic theory. I became disillusioned with the idea that people are rational and that profits should be maximized, or that you even know how to maximize it. We are increasingly understanding that people are non-rational, some irrational, that much behavior is heuristic, not maximizing. We want to sort of pick the tube of toothpaste, let's say Crest, without thinking about maximizing my satisfaction by comparing 4 other brands. And we operate much more intuitively and so on. What that means is that economic theory is not describing the real world. Marketing is. Marketing is the real economics. I don't put down the theories that the economists created and some of their very good findings, but marketing is the real economics. So I came into marketing with those realistic assumptions about what makes the wheels go around. And I'd like to say this. The problem that economists should try to solve is economic growth. Economic growth is largely a function of business growth. If our businesses do not know how to grow, then our economy doesn't grow. And the formula for the businesses growing is twofold, which our dear father of management taught us, Peter Drucker. The formula for business growth is called innovation and marketing. And Drucker meant by innovation just the capability of creating an offer of value. Innovation is the process of creating something of value for someone else. It has the notion of something new. It could even be a new type of restaurant. It could be a new hotel. Yesterday, I gave a lecture to Best Western Hotels, and I told them that there's a lot of types of hotels. Did you know there's an ice hotel? I don't know if you want to be cold. If you want to be, it's a pretty cold hotel, but it's kind of interesting. There is a underwater hotel. There's so many types. Even two hotels that may be pretty similar, there will be probably a differentiation. Every commodity can undertake a differentiation, a real or an imagined, maybe sometimes just one coming out of storytelling. But most of us like to know what you're buying. What is the value of what I am buying? So we tell companies, please, what is your value proposition? So I say to Best Western hotels, what is your value proposition? Or I say to Marriott, what is your value proposition? And of course, I learned that there's several types of Marriott hotels, so they have a value proposition that's different for the high-income people, middle-income people, lower-income people. So let me get back to this idea that business growth is a function of innovating or creating value and of using marketing to communicate the value. Now, I want to distinguish between two types of economies because marketing should be different in each type. There's the economy which has capital shortages. This is about poor countries. Poor countries don't have much capital, and they're trying to get savings and amass some money so that some people will have enough money to start a factory. There's a problem of capital shortages, and that's why the workers in such economies don't get paid very much, because they're just being squeezed for their work in order that some people get rich enough to open another factory and another factory. That's not our economy today, here in Europe and States and so on. We have a capital abundant economy. We have so much capital around that it's just looking, it's available if it could find anything to do with it. The problem is, yes, it's the problem of no one starting enough factories, but why start a factory when we have a surplus of factories? But why would we have a surplus of capacity to make steel, a surplus of capacity to make clothing and so on? Why? Is it because people don't want steel, don't need it anymore, or they don't need more clothing or food? The fact is income distribution. Income distribution is going to destroy us. It got out of hand. 8 people in the world own half of the world's wealth. Look that up. Oxfam, the researchers, found that wealth is so concentrated. Now, it's all right if we want to only grow jobs by building mansions and swimming pools. If the economy should spend its time building mansions and swimming pools, you can have enough jobs. Except the people making those won't be living in them or using the swimming pool. So the problem that bothered me as an economist as well as a marketer is that something's wrong with our capitalism that needs to be fixed. I am not in favor of replacing capitalism. I'm in favor of fixing it. And fixing it through different cutting the tax loopholes, raising the taxes on the wealthy, not to 100%. I'm not going to tax 100% of their earnings, but they should be paying a higher percentage. The reason is we are finding that in the United States, 40 to 60% of the people who retire have no savings. Is there any role for government? Yes, at least to give them some cash to live on. In fact, that's the reason for the interest in the new idea of the individual basic income, IBI, individual basic income, which is maybe we should, and Finland is looking at that, Switzerland's looking at that. By the way, Alaska, with all of its oil some years ago, decided it better give $10,000 to every Alaskan because there were a lot of those who needed the money, and why not? They had more money than they could use. So that led me to write 2 books, which brought me back to being an economist and a political scientist. And then I'll lead you to understand how I got back to marketing. The first book in 2015 was called Confronting Capitalism. And it's 14 problems that have solutions but are not being handled well. One of which is poverty, because why should a wealthy society as the U.S. was continue to have 15% poor people? What are we doing wrong? And why is it that many American workers on payday get their check and they immediately go and borrow some more money because the check isn't enough to buy anything? So the capitalists have to understand that they're committing suicide for themselves as well as for us if we aren't paid decent wages. You understand? Because by not having a living wage, I can't keep their factories going. It's in their interest not to take most of the gains from the business they run. Now, that point was made too by Mr. Piketty. If you like to read a book that thick, but full of documentation, the French economist Piketty gave us the picture of how incomes are in different places and how wealth is, and he ended up himself becoming an advocate of better distribution, not redistribution, but using taxes in a better way, in a fairer way. So I wrote that book, and I suddenly realized that capitalism is destroying our democracy. What could I possibly mean by that? Well, in democracy, we don't have direct Greek democracy. You remember in Athens, those who were entitled to vote, which were not women, only men, and people of property, at least all of them showed up to vote on each issue. That's direct democracy. The truth is people are lazy and can't study what the best answer is for every issue, so they appoint representatives. We vote for people to represent us because we're lazy. We leave it to them to make all these decisions. So to be a representative, you have to run for a vote. You need money. Increasingly, the money is coming from billionaires. That is, of the 17 Republicans who ran for office of the president, 8 or 9 had a personal billionaire behind them, ready to spend anything he or she could spend for their candidate. Now that sounds to me like plutocracy, the movement toward plutocracy rather than democracy. Because if those plutocrats are good marketers, because what are you trying to do? You're trying to market a guy or a gal to be a representative. They will spend the money in the correct way and put into power people whose first debt in winning the election is to follow what the donors want and believe. So the people you're voting for, first thing in their mind is, I will not cross up the interests of the donors who put me in power because I need their money for the next election. So I will please them. The second group I will please is my political party, which has already told me, the representative, not to think freely, but to follow the party line. If the party is against abortion, if it is for guns, whatever, being in that party, I know what, I'm really doing no work. They're doing the thinking for me. So the party is doing the thinking, not the representative. The reason for the dysfunction of the Congress in the United States is that the two parties don't even talk to each other. The Republicans, who did win, not in the right way, they won the election because the Russians helped them, we believe. And in addition, the popular vote was 3 million more for Hillary. But he got in. The only good thing that will come out of Trump being president is we will know enough in the future never to elect a man like that again. He is his own antibody. So I'm embarrassed in being in Europe, if anyone. And by the way, don't go to Trump hotels. I'm going to start a boycott. Let him start losing a little money in his business. Maybe he'll retire. So anyways, the third interest of a politician, the first is my donors, the second the party, the third is to pay attention to the lobbyists, special interest groups, decide which ones I should be with. And if they have any energy left, guess what it's going to be? It's going to consider what you care for. You voted him in, the people, the citizens who were in his district. He pays some attention to that. None of the politicians that I know in my country, maybe even in yours, act like statesmen. That's a very different concept of a politician. A statesman says, for every issue, what's best for the country? Not what's best for my donor, what's best for my party. So since more winners and representatives are dependent on money, that's what I mean by saying that capitalism, in having created so much wealth, concentrated wealth, is ruining our democracy. And I put that down in the second book, which is called Democracy in Decline. When I write the next edition of Democracy in Decline, with all of its problems, I'm going to add one adjective because of Trump: democracy in rapid decline. I have to add that to the title. Okay, now you may say, will Dr. Kotler ever get to marketing, which is a reason I'm here? Yes, of course. I started by saying that economic growth has a formula. And I say that the formula, let's see if I did anything there. Okay. The formula is about what we said, innovation and marketing. Now, with respect to innovation, what underlies innovation? What could make Italy more innovative? You've had your brilliant people, Marconi and others, who have really innovated at the right time, all those things in the past. I am so convinced you're very entrepreneurial as a country, as a people. You take things into your own hands. You start a different restaurant. You created the pizza. Someone said to me, you also created the United States because you discovered it, and so on. So the entrepreneurial quality is high here in Italy. But I know that because I attended 3 or 4 groups this week. A group that was located in Rome, started by a gentleman who 24 years ago started to say there's a lot of people inventing ideas and they need help, and I will provide them with an incubator and an accelerator. Because it's one thing to have an idea, it's another bigger thing to get that idea made into a product or a service. And they're even trying in Rome, this is in Rome, the group is called Innova, and it has a following. And they are trying to make Rome perhaps the innovation center, just like we have Silicon Valley in the United States. But meanwhile, there's a group in Milan, G2, and they have people who are gathered together to make Milan the innovation center. I was in Bologna and getting some sign that's they're up to being in the competition known for some innovative thinking and so on. Now, there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and an innovator. If you start a new restaurant, you're not creating something other than a restaurant, and you're an entrepreneur, but if it's a very different type of restaurant, a restaurant without any food, for example, whatever that would mean, that would be inventing. So you're going to be doing entrepreneurship beautifully without any coaching. Being an innovator and a serial innovator, this is when it's really good. There are some people who are so gifted that it's one innovation after another. Go back to Thomas Edison. Do you have a Thomas Edison here? One product, he made movies, he made recordings, everything, the light bulb and so on. There are a few people like that. One of them is Dyson. Do you know Dyson in England? Who created a new kind of vacuum cleaner, a new kind of fan without any blades, a new kind of way to dry your hands. He's the Thomas Edison of today. Another fellow who earns a title is Elon Musk. Elon Musk, who makes the Tesla car. But not only the Tesla car, there's a whole thing called Solar City that is going to make batteries and energy sources that we haven't seen before. That's not enough for him. He's going to be in space, SpaceX. That's not enough from him. He wants to settle Mars as a colony in time, before we're extinct on this planet. So why shouldn't Italy have a Dyson or a Elon Musk when you had Leonardo? You had Leonardo da Vinci, who comes up with a helicopter picture and all these wonderful gadgets and things. Where's that Leonardo spirit? Can you teach innovation to people? That's a big question. True innovators don't go to college. They're too busy doing what they want to do and make. But I think college may even ruin them by confusing them. But we have to change a lot of your entrepreneurial talent into innovative talent. So what I'm saying is this, that basically innovation is basically disciplined creativity. Disciplined creativity. How do we get creative mindsets in our educational system? How do we start with little kids and tease them about trying to solve a problem? They have lots of problems. They want their food right now. They want something to play with. How do you build a nation of creative children? And then it will stay with them. And so the big picture then that I'm giving you is, if you want economic growth, you better have business growth. If you're going to get business growth, the business has to merge innovation and marketing together. Now, there's an interesting aspect of marketing. It's changing. It was basically the way of communicating and promoting and enticing people to want to buy that product or service. So marketing had nothing to do with the product formation. In the old days, the company had a group, R&D group, or product managers, and they would make something without talking to marketing. They would make an automobile. Marketing would only be drawn in when it came to need something to say about the automobile. Isn't that stupid? To make an automobile hoping everyone will buy that one, having no target market, this is a piece of transportation that I'm offering you, and then saying to these people called marketing, can you give us some words so we could make it exciting to people? Why didn't they build in the excitement? Why didn't they build a car for a woman's car, which is a new concept? The one where you could put your purse and you can put your gun and feel safe and so on. The whole idea, generate a concept of your product and have the marketing people part of developing the concept. Why would they be so enthusiastic and able to sell it if they weren't involved in making the product? So in the old days, marketing people were not involved with the product until it came to putting some words together, storytelling. The new marketing is much better than that. The new marketing is headed by a CMO, a Chief Marketing Officer. That alone says he's a chief. So there's a Chief Financial Officer, a Chief Information Officer, a Chief Technology Officer, which really, in principle, means that the marketer participates in the strategy, in what products to make. I would go further. The role of the marketer today is to be the engine of growth, the engine of the company's growth. I've met a number of CEOs who tell me, I hire a person because I think he will help us grow in the market. And he doesn't mean just help sell the products they make. Get the difference. He will help us find products to make and groups to satisfy. So the first question you have to ask is that the way you treat marketing in your company? That the marketer is just there to help you sell more of what you make? Or is he supposed to help you find new things to make for groups with needs? See, marketing is therefore CCDV. CCDV. Create, communicate, deliver, value. CCDV. Are you doing that? Now, you may notice that there's a statistic that says the average CMO lasts 2 or 2.5 years. That's misinterpreted. It sounds like they never quite do the job they were hired to do, so they are fired. People say, oh, that's a short-lived career to be a CMO. Don't accept it, you know. Half of them were hired, did such a good job, they were hired by another company. So what we're saying is not that he was a CMO for 2 years. He continued to be a CMO, but in another company. So we have to be careful of that. The good guys get rated. If that guy helped the growth of the company that well, I want to take him into my company. So basically, marketing now is really changing, and the CEOs tell me that they want to understand marketing better. By the way, one of the problems is CEOs, the heads of companies, they didn't ever develop a marketing background. There are a few marketing people who ended up running companies, but most of them have a very narrow idea of what marketing is. I want the guy to get some advertising for me, and maybe a little marketing research. I'll even tolerate that. But what I tell the CEO, the CMO, the new CMO, insist that your office is next to the CEO. Because the CFO sees the CEO every day. The CEO managing the income and the money of the company, he says to his CFO, how did we do today? How did we do today? And are we overspending money in any way? And if the CFO says, we're probably overspending money on marketing, because they never tell me what we're getting for the money we give them. So who's the natural enemy of the marketer? The CFO, who talks all the time to the CEO. So when you accept your job to be a CMO, have your office also near to the CFO in self-defense. In fact, become a friend of the CFO. And you become a friend by saying, look, I know you have to know how the money was used and the ROI. Let's work together to get instruments to measure what that campaign did for us in financial terms. And if he's your buddy, the CFO, and you agree on how to measure the results, you can get more money from him for new campaigns. So those are some of the things happening. Now, the big change in marketing is the traditional marketing will remain. A lot of good things in a lot of good things in my first edition of Marketing Management in 1967. But I'm often asked by a CEO after a talk, he says, would you sign my book? Gladly. And I see it's the first edition. I said, are you still using it? He says, oh, I go back. Sometimes I remember a chapter you wrote on channels, and it helps me. I said, good. And did you like the discussion of digital, what's happening digitally? He says, it's not in there, is it? And what about the concept of brand equity? What's that? So in a sense, that book's an outdated book. So he says, are you trying to get me to buy a new edition? I said, yes. I admit it. It's not your money I need. You need today's marketing, not 1967 marketing. Most companies are still using my 1967 book, and it's a 2017 world. And the reason we all love marketing, we don't love geometry. Did you ever try to teach geometry year after year? There's nothing to talk about. There's no drama. Nothing new. You know what a triangle is, and you know the hypotenuse and all that. So basically, marketing keeps changing, not just in stories that we tell, but in new concepts. Concepts like the customer journey. We always could have used that concept. Namely, what are the steps that get someone who doesn't have a car to not only say it's time for a car, and to go through something that ends up as buying it could be a Fiat car, it could be an Audi, anything. Every company should try to map the customer journey and the touch points. The journey is a set of touch points. If your brand is not one of the touch points, that is, they've never seen your name, then you're out of the running immediately. So you've got to know what types of journeys bring people to buy the Fiat. And by the way, there's no such one journey. People get to buying a Fiat of a certain kind with different journeys, but you should start mapping what some of them are and where do you appear. Now, in the old days, all you knew about a Fiat was what Fiat told you about their car and some friends who bought a Fiat. Today, we don't need to hear from a company as much as we want to hear from people who have used the product. And so Facebook offers us so many people who we could even put a question out. How's your Fiat? Would you buy a Fiat? Today, the customer has gone from being so ill-informed, under-informed, only informed by the marketer, to a customer who is so capable of being so well-informed that, guess what? Do we need salesmen anymore? Here's what I'm trying to say. A lot of companies are saying to a salesman who wants to come and make a call, I don't need you because everything about the three brands I'm considering is on the internet. Not only your description of your brand on the internet, but the other brands have their good descriptions of what their value proposition is and their price is. And not only that, I can look at the ratings that are done by Pope or some other ratings of if I'm going to buy an insurance policy, I can find out how much you're charging for a certain life insurance policy and what the competitors are charging. Why do I need a sales call? Doctors today who should listen to some of the salespeople who come with a new drug find out that they can't see the doctor, he's too busy, and the receptionist was told by the doctor, tell the salespeople to just leave a sample. So they're being curbed, in a sense, for even getting into making the sales call. But I'm trying to emphasize it's a changed world where people feel very capable of being fully informed by the internet services without listening to each company and its message. Now, there's even this awareness that it is so hard to get attention to anything, to draw attention. I open my iPhone and there's 1,000 messages of people trying to get attention. Some of them are political messages. I should vote for this person in Virginia who's running for election. She's a very good candidate. I get all these messages about cars and everything else. So how do you get long story into the mind of a person? There's a difference between a 30-second commercial and long story. The internet provides the opportunity, which means digitalization provides an opportunity for you to supply a lot more information to anyone who wants to look up your company and learn more about it. You may be running a page on Facebook and build fans on Facebook. You may have a brand community. The best companies, by the way, are able to build a brand community. People who want to meet other people because that brand means they're the kinds of people I want to meet. The best example may be Ducati, your motorcycle company. I met the CEO of Ducati, very impressed with that company. He has fans. They are more than fans, they're advocates. That's the ultimate, to convert your customers into being advocates. Now notice what I mean by that. A customer can be loyal by buying again and again from the same person and yet not talk about the brand to anyone. So we all need to use this thing called the net promotion score. And if you haven't you don't know much about it, look it up on the internet. Just type the words net promotion score. You will see it's a scale from 1 to 10. You sample some of your customers and ask them a question. Have you ever recommended us to someone else or even thought of doing that? Now, the more of that happens with your customers, the higher your net promotion score. Give a 10 if the person says, I love your company, and I've talked about it to almost everyone. I'm kind of raving mad about your company. That's a 10. If he says that I occasionally think of doing that, and that's a 9. I haven't done that, but I would be comfortable telling others about that's an 8. So you average the numbers, and you might find, and here's what he told me. He not only has the net promotion score for almost everyone who has a motorcycle, a Ducati, but he has it for every dealership. He wants every dealership to do it with their customers. And the score's been going up. So when there's lots more talk, good talk, by the way, because if someone scores at a 1, he's a defector. He says bad things about you. Don't get a Ducati or something. So word of mouth and the internet are going to make traditional advertising a little less important. You could say that the reason for a 30-second commercial, which is the most expensive thing you can do with an advertising agency, is to give in 30 seconds, a picture, a kind of a brand feeling. It better be an emotional kind of connection. I don't want just a description of your company. Something with a child in it, maybe, or a dog. You know how that many ads have to have something human, something that gets to us. And I might sort of get that feeling about the company, that they're good guys and something. But it doesn't do much as far as conveying real information for decision-making if you're a buyer. So what's the issue now? Now that we're in the age of digital, we have to blend traditional and digital. And they work very well together. That very television commercial toward the end may say, for more information, see our page on Facebook. Then you get into that community of people who love the brand and talking about Facebook. Or they may have gone first to Facebook, heard about the product, and it even says, if you want to see some of our previous commercials, here's how you look them up. So I think that the job of the marketer today is to blend traditional and digital. Now, interesting, what are real companies doing about this? So we often ask about Procter & Gamble because they've been a leading marketer and are. And they told me that they were at 35% digital now. Their budget was 35% for Instagram, YouTube, tweets, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and so on and so forth. I was going to make a prediction, if it's 35% now, it will go to 50-50. That half of your budget will be depending on the digital and half on blending it with the traditional. Except for an announcement that came in the newspaper a few days ago that P&G is cutting that digital budget in half. Which means to me, without talking to them, I haven't followed it up. They were overreaching. They were enthusiastic. They did 35% digital. It wasn't working out as well. They didn't go to zero. They cut half the budget on digital and kept the things that were working. So it's not easy to say that, oh, you're a good guy because you're doing 50-50 digital and traditional. There's no right number. The right number is iterative, in a sense. Try this, try that. You will settle in a percentage of those two means of communication. You'll know it when you see Facebook working for you or Instagram working for you. So we are in a new kind of marketing. Let me re-emphasize some of the points. One is we want marketing to deliver growth, not just sales. And another is we want marketing always to deliver value and be able to even express the value in a value proposition. Now, let's go to some of the slides that I want to, and maybe you will have questions about some of them. I want to talk about what is marketing, a little more basically, once again. The old image, and found in many of your companies, I'm doing marketing because I have a sales force, I'm doing advertising, I'm doing promotion. Remember, I think that's an old concept of marketing. It is the real concept, of course, is you're choosing a target market, you're doing your analysis and your planning to create a solution, basically, a service. And by the way, most of us say no one sells products, really. They're selling the service that a product really delivers. And maybe the service, and that was Ted Levitt's famous article called Marketing Myopia. He said the railroad should have gone into the airline business because people were using the railroad to get from A to B, and if airplanes do a better job, so be focused. Don't be myopic. Myopic means you are so narrowly focused on you're a railroad person. No, you're not. You're giving solutions to getting from A to B. So walking and biking and motorcycles are part of the solution too, if you're not myopic. Now, the next thing about that is a little framework of language. We started saying that marketing is all about just 2 C's, your company and its customers. Where did we get the 2C idea? We got it from Peter Drucker, because what did he say is the purpose of a business? Purpose of a business is to be able to create a customer. He wasn't going to say it's to make a profit. It followed that you're going to make profits if you get a lot of customers. But can you create a customer? Now, some of us went beyond that because creating a customer means it could be a one-time customer. So it really is finding a customer, getting a frequent user out of the customer, growing the customer's business. What's the expression? Create, develop, and grow the customer. Something like that. And by the way, if he's your customer for the product you have, maybe your brand will allow you to go into an adjacent market with a brand he trusts in this market, and he will buy more different things because of the brand name. So if I buy an Apple computer and I like it, why shouldn't they make an iPhone? Why shouldn't they make an iWatch? So the brand becomes an element here. But anyways, it started with the 2 C's, company and customers, and we should have added collaborators, who are the retailers, wholesalers, agents, the whole channel system. They're partners. The best way in the best companies, you're not fighting your retailers. You are jointly working with your retailers to make them rich and to make you rich. And then, of course, we should have had the C for competitors. That's what it's about. So the 4 C's are customers, company, collaborators, and competitors. And we throw in a 5th C, and that's enough. I can't think of anything else. Context. Are we in a growing economy or a weak economy? What are the values socially and culturally happening in the country? The millennials have different values than the senior citizens and all that. The context. Then, with respect to the famous 4 Ps, they are found in every marketing plan. I mean, you've got to touch those 4 things, but you say to yourself, can we be even if we can't find more Ps, forget about needing it to be a P, what would you pull out of this? And I would say service. Service is there because what's a haircut? It's a service product. What's a bank giving you? Service, but it was a service product rather than a physical product, okay? But let's pull service out for a couple of reasons. So we will talk about product if there's some physical part to our business, and we'll talk about service, and because there's so many services, and you enhance any product with, let's say if you give them a guarantee, that's a service. You've guaranteed that if the product doesn't satisfy them or the service doesn't satisfy them, there's a service called the guarantee or the warranty. There's a lot of reasons to take it out and make it part of the plan. Brand is not in the 4 Ps, and brand is more than just promotion. It's the result of having created a trust. The brand is being built to create a trust for anything our brand can offer, and so on. We'll say more about that. And then I would pull out a price, incentives. I would have a section on the pricing schedule for the hotel, but I also may issue coupons, I may issue discounts. There's a lot of incentives. The whole field there is a field we call sales promotion. Not the word promotion, sales promotion. And all the tools that you can use to sort of get excitement with a better offer, a special offer. This week only, half price, and things like that, or 2 for the price of 1. Promotions, incentives. And then there's communication and delivery. So every marketing plan should have product, service, brand, price, incentives, communication, delivery. I apologize for not having a P for every one of those. Now, that doesn't mean when you develop a marketing plan for a big company or a small company that it's the plan, there's only one plan. Let's take McDonald's. Did you know McDonald's has a separate marketing plan for how to attract teenagers to go not to the pizzeria, which they don't offer, but to come to McDonald's with their friends, with their buddies? And they do it separately for teenage girls. There's a plan, and for teenage guys. They have a plan for senior citizens. They have a separate marketing plan for the target group of single mothers with children. There, they realize the single mother won't go to McDonald's if she doesn't get a salad there, a good salad. In other words, the child wants a hamburger, but she wants something to eat, not a hamburger. So they had poor average salads, and now they make a pretty good salad because that's what the plan called for. So you're not just making one plan, you are probably shaping the 4 Ps and the other things to be the best marketing mix of tools and messages for that group. Always think target market and its needs. How do you satisfy them? And the last point in this encoding of marketing is the process itself, which should always start with MR, marketing research. I mean, I need some data from surveys or from focus groups on how the target market thinks. And then I will probably in a brand new market do the research, and I will discover STP. I will discover that the market is pretty complicated, has segments. Now, at that point, when I know there's teenagers and there's senior citizens and so on, I may say, I want to be in one group. I want to make the hamburger for just teenagers. I mean, maybe that could be a good business. So you could have several targets, but a different plan for each target. Positioning, STP, positioning is what you say is your value proposition, why the teenager should be turned on to come to McDonald's. TM, therefore, after you did your STP and you saw the complicated market, for every TM, you offer a VP, a value proposition. That sounds like a credible one that they could believe in. I mean, if they said, buy this Audi because you'll be able to get more women interested in you as a value proposition, there would be a question of believability. I mean, they sell dreams. Marketers sell dreams. It is true. We know people have aspirations, and one way to win business is to meet their aspirations. As a matter of fact, you know the famous statement made by the company in cosmetics. In the factory, we make cosmetics. In the home, we sell hope. We sell hope that those cosmetics will make you come across as a very beautiful person and so on. So after we have the TM and the value proposition, we make our full marketing plan. And today we're in a position where we could send out, using software, different messages overnight Each message for that particular person of our big set of possible messages, each person gets the right message at the right time for the right person. A dream we never had in marketing. What was our dream in marketing? We'll put our ad in a 30-second commercial, and hopefully 10% of the people are in the mood to buy a car. They'll see the ad, and we'll become one of the cars in what is called the brand consideration set. Because when someone's going to buy a car, they're only thinking of 3 possible car brands. You got to get into the brand consideration set, or you're going to be out of the picture. But that was then. Today, while we're asleep, our iPhone is getting message after message after message. That is being done with what is called marketing automation. It is a result of us having moved into what is called big data. Big data means that we get to know a lot about each of you. How do we get to know a lot about each of you? From your transactions in the supermarket, what brands you bought, how often you buy, from your checkout, from your airline travel. As a matter of fact, I think I'll show it to you in a moment. There's many ways we put together a lot of data with an aim really to serve you better. In principle, the justification of invading your privacy is this. There's no reason to send a message to a person who has a 0 probability in buying what you could make. It's a waste of your time and a waste of my time to try to sell an Audi to you if you're a low-income, very low-income person. So if I know enough about you, I'm only going to send messages to people who have the money and possible interest. In fact, we use a technique. It's called predictive analytics. It is the same as if any of you ever did regression analysis, you have a dependent variable, which we call the probability, and you have several variables that influence the probability. And then you measure with the data what the coefficients are. You'll even know how much each of the variables influence the probability. So I might say that give me the names of people who have a probability better than 70% that they will buy the product. I don't want to bother anyone with 0, 10, 20, 30. That's a waste of my time. This is sometimes called lead analysis, getting leads. In business to business, we say, give me a good set of names to call on because they need our type of product. So predictive analytics is a technical way to actually measure the likelihood of purchase. So we call that marketing automation because we're now capable of setting up the right message to the right person and specifying when it should arrive on the mobile unit of yours. Because today, everything centers on one screen. We're not even at our computer screen anymore for a lot of people. The screen that counts is your iPhone or the other brand. A smartphone. The smartphone is going to be the way we reach customers and communicate and work with them. And we are aware that a person with a smartphone may be in the store about to buy an expensive product and pulls out the phone and he says, I think I might be able to get a better price than the price you're asking for. Let me check before I buy from you. Yes, I just checked and I can get the same product at half the price or 10% off or something. Why do you do that? Because you don't really want to go to the other store, but you want to say, I think you're overcharging. And then that leads to the problem you're going to be facing increasingly because of the mobile phone, should you lower your price a little bit for that person. I'll tell you, let's dramatize it. I go to a hotel at night, and they want $300 for a room. I say, $300? That's a lot. frankly, I know that it only costs you $15 to clean the room after someone uses it. How about $20? So he likes it. It's a joke, he says. I can't rent it to you for $20. I mean, yes, I'd make $5 on you if it cost me only $15 to rent it out, but I can't it will ruin my business. No, I say, let me just check. There's 2 other hotels next door. And of course, I find a price, not at $300, $220. All right, I say, look, I'll go next door, or I really prefer your hotel, but I want to pay only $220. And half the time they'll do it. It's only costing them $15 to have the room cleaned. So that's a powerful tool for you as a consumer. Couldn't you see how consumers are now owning the market? We thought that the producers owned the market. No, we are so well informed, we can do that. There are defenses for that too. I mean, you may say absolutely no and be stuck with a declining number of rooms sold. Okay, but to finish the process, I and C are so important because you could have a great MP, marketing plan, but you don't implement it well. We had a Hope professor named Thomas Bonoma who said, as an expert on marketing, I'm only going to concentrate on one thing, implementation failures. I'm going to collect cases of beautiful plans that were so badly handled. The sales force just messed it up, this and that. So Bonoma has a whole theory about what makes implementation really work well. The way you catch the bad implementation is through the last term, which is C for control, because you see your sales dropping. Now, when your sales didn't come out to be what you planned on, you go backwards. Maybe we had poor implementation. A good plan, but poor implementation. No, it was good implementation. Was the plan good? Oh, maybe the plan wasn't so good. Well, maybe the value proposition was the problem. You go backwards, and you eventually redo your plan. It's live planning. Sometimes you redo your whole strategy. And that's the framework. Now, very important, if economics is about growth and business is the way to get growth, the question is, do you want to get organic growth or do you want to get growth by buying another company? The case can be made that the companies that grow organically on their own perform with a higher ROI than the companies that grow by acquiring someone else. It's the lazy thing to do to buy someone else because that's just the price you're paying. You're probably going to buy someone who you're going to ruin, who was good without you and becomes bad with you, because you're going to change your systems to your systems. They don't like to be working for you anyways. They had a nice family in that firm, and now you are just part of a bigger organization. So this is evidential. I don't say this casually. There's evidence, if you take a set of firms that kept growing organically and another set that grew by acquisition, that the margins and the growth were always better, almost always better for organic growth. But then the question is, yes, I want organic growth. How do I get it? Well, first of all, one of your problems is you have too many products, and some of them used to be your success, but now they're legacy products. They're good old products that you're proud of, but there's no future to them. When will you give up those non-growth products? And that means if you give up some of the products that are absorbing a lot of your resources, you have more resources to put against the high potential growth products. So one lesson is to reallocate more money to those products that have higher growth potential. The second is to innovate brand new products and services and business models and so on. And the third is to be a lean marketer. Now, what do we mean by a lean marketer? And we mean optimizing your sales, pricing, marketing, cost management of your existing businesses, avoiding waste in marketing. You know, in a sense, I'm always bothered by the 30-second commercial, although I can see the role it should play. But if it's a commercial to sell an Audi, and most of us are not even, we have to watch it, but we're not buying a car now, and not an Audi because maybe our income isn't high enough. So 90% of us are watching a commercial where we have no interest. That sounds like waste to me, but those who do it say that it's still the cost per dollar exposure to a person who might be interested in an Audi is the lowest through a mass commercial exposure. Even though only 10% of the people may be buying any kind of car, and maybe a very small percentage even thinking of an Audi, their argument is it's still a low cost per, not exposure. What you should measure is not cost per exposure, but cost per exposure to a person who might have been buying or interested in that car. It could tilt his purchase. It could be the time that makes him think, I better go and see a dealer about that car. But there's some kind of waste we feel in that kind of thing. That's why we're so excited about the ability to send the right message to the right person at the right time, which is called, it has a name, precision marketing. In other words, lean marketing is precision marketing. It's a message to a person who could care about the message. So where's the waste? Everywhere. So many messages going to everyone or anyone that it's not even, it's the ones I throw away. I click away every one of these messages because I don't vote in Virginia. A message is about buying a dress. I'm not a woman. So there's a lot of those things occurring because maybe there's something easy about sending out one message to everyone. Now, here are the main features of the new marketing. And centering on mobile marketing, I mentioned that. Gathering data on the customer journey. If you read my new book, 4.0, why did I write that? Because I wasn't going to write a brand new edition that gives you that problem of reading a great deal of material just to find out about the new digital world. It's written to bring the digital world into your marketing practice. We have a scheme. We say that the scheme is be able to build awareness, then be able to build appeal. They may come together. I mean, hopefully, the ad that may create awareness is very appealing. Or it may be done at a separate stage. Awareness to appeal. And that will lead the prospect to ask some questions. It may have been a new restaurant. I see that Milan has a new restaurant. I become aware, and there's something appealing. I see a picture of the food and so on. So I have questions to ask. I wonder what others have said about that restaurant. And I go, actually, a lot of restaurants, you can read comments by the people who just were at the restaurant. So I ask some questions, and it may lead me then to go there. So I bought. Okay. So first step was what? It was awareness, then appeal, then ask. There will questions will come up, and then buy if I'm satisfied. Then it's rebuy if it's one of those things you could repurchase. That they got me to be very satisfied. Rebuy, and then I became loyal, and I am now in the journey. I'm now maybe a advocate, which I explained, where I'm excited and I tell others. whether I become an advocate is a matter of whether you could think of a wow. We use the expression WOW, wow. I mean, can you get someone to be so excited about your hotel or whatever? By the way, I have to remember always that many businesses in Italy are smaller and medium-sized, and we're often pulling these new things and seeing them in the big companies. And you have several big companies, that's not the problem. Medium and small-sized businesses may say some of these things have to be tailored, especially if we say, oh, go into digital and do big data and get all the software that you need. Can we get away without can we be digital without taking it to that full extent of maybe even running our marketing by artificial intelligence? See, this marketing automation idea is just another word for artificial intelligence or software replacing us, doing the work. So we will always have to be realistic about the kind of company we have and how much of the new marketing, so-called, we need. Can you build, as an Italian firm, can you build a brand community? Yes, if you have a kind of product that some people can fall in love with. Again, I don't think we're going to make toothpaste, Crest toothpaste, be a talking subject by people and shouting about it and wowed about it and all that. Motorcycle, yes. An automobile, yes. At least you can get fans. Some people buy a BMW every time they're buying the next one, it's a BMW, sure. And they talk to some other people who, oh, you have a BMW, which one do you have? Okay. It's not a brand community unless you go out riding together. I mean, in the ultimate sense of Ducati and Harley Davidson, that's a whole lifestyle. How many products could be the center of our lifestyle? Well, if you're an artist, then you're going to meet other artists. You're going to be in an industry which is full of a whole life about art and so on. But you got to think about that. Using social media for apps for messaging. The whole I distinguish between an app and a platform. An app is a convenient way to get at something. A platform is something that brings a lot of connected people together, talking to each other, sending messages to each other. Managing content. This is something new. In the old days, every message we ever sent out to any customer was a sales message. It was pretty much either thank you for buying or please buy our product. That was the content. The content was always sales messages. Today, it's a good idea, and it's easier to do, to send a story to a person that warms him up toward the fact we even thought about him. So let's say a lot of people are into sports, and I read a wonderful story. It's a 2-page story about everyone's hero, and I send it to those people I know from my data who are high on sports, and I don't want anything from them. It didn't say, now you should buy the basketball or the tennis racket or anything. I don't say that. It says, as a matter of fact, with our compliments. Now, I don't want them to receive every day another story from you. That's manipulative. They'll know you're just trying to warm them up. But every good salesman thinks this way. The salesman, when I was writing my book in 1967, I had one of the best editors, and he didn't have to do anything. I knew what I wanted to write, but I would get a clipping from the New York Times of an interesting marketing move by someone, and it would say, from Stan, just thought you might like to use this or something. So how can you help your customers get content? Now, here's the thing. How do you manage a content program? Should you just clip articles from your newspapers and different articles that interest maybe women or sports people or whatever? Or should you actually have a journalist working for you to create content, which makes it more exclusive, more precise for the interests of certain groups of people? So we're finding some big companies who can afford to do this. They're hiring journalists to develop a stream of content, hoping that that would tip the balance and warm up the relationship. I mentioned marketing automation, high-quality service. Being an authentic company, better than that maybe, to being a caring company, I think that the millennials particularly really want to know what you care about. What does your company care about? You want me to care about you, but I care about the environment. I care about personal safety. What are you doing about that? I care about hunger in the world. Now, you're not in the business of solving those problems, but I would say it would be a differentiator for you to care about something. Now, I know you care in this sense. Someone knocks on your door from the Boy Scouts and you give them a little money as a company. A lot of people are always knocking on your door for some handouts, some little things, and you feel good about doing it. That's not the same as having a cause. Look at Unilever. The CEO, Mr. Paul Polman, is really very much a hero. He says he's going to double the size of his business with sustainability practice. Not because of the sustainability, but he's going to make enough money to grow his business and give and help out the environment. And so far, so good. So he said that several years ago. He believes that his organization can be so creative with Dove and all of these brands, and look what they did with Dove and women, women feeling more beautiful, even if it's not a physical beauty, about themselves. His brands have creativeness, and as a result, he's been meeting his goals and helping with the environment and being a lean marketer and very little waste, very precision marketing, and so on. So these are things in the new marketing. I'm going to skip many things, but with the time that remains, I want to say there's lots of things going on. And I talked about marketing reaching the digital age, but I want to distinguish between Analytics 1 and Analytics 2. The reason is, when you do big data, you got to mine the data. You got to go into it, not with your eyes. There's no way to look at thousands of journeys. You need a technique, and we call it analytics, market analytics or marketing analytics. But we were originally at 1.0, which was basically taking your sales data and a few variables that would explain the data. Both marketing variables like your price and so on, and also the economy and its level and so on. Today, the software is at the Analytics 2.0 stage, where you just turn it on and it starts correlating terabytes of data and hundreds of variables in real time to reveal how sales touch points interact dynamically. In other words, there's a magician behind the screen and getting insight about relationships that are in the marketplace that you would never have noticed. The whole point of big data and analytics is to get at insights. Who's buying what, when, and why. So let me give you a chance to rate your own company from a marketing point of view. Think of either your whole company or just a unit within your company, a unit, because some companies have several different divisions. If you have in mind one of those, I'd like you to answer these questions, each of which can be answered from a 1 to a 5. First question is, do you personally think that your company is very good at finding new opportunities? Because the job of marketing in particular is to identify opportunities. Now, if the fact is your company rarely gets an idea of anything new as an opportunity, then you got to give yourself a 1. If your company is one that's full of opportunities, the problem is you got so many ways to go, so many things you might do, give yourself a 5. Secondly, do you use marketing research at all in marketing analytics? If not, a 1. If you, yes, are very dependent on this kind of information and so on, give yourself a 5. Do you have a record of successful innovation? Have you brought out some new things? From 1 to 5. Do you really feel that your communications are working for you? Have you been measuring which have been effective and things like that? If you feel that it's pretty good, you've got good people doing good communication for you, that's a 5. What about the sales force? Are you happy with your sales force? Are they doing the best job possible? From 1 to 5. What about your distribution channels? You have them. Are you working well with the retailers, the agents, and so on? From 1 to 5. Do you have a well-thought-out marketing strategy? Could you, in a few words, give me your strategy? By the way, a lot of people find it's hard to do. I won't mention the one that I just saw yesterday. But do you think you have a very well-thought-out marketing strategy? Next, do you think you're getting the resources you need for marketing? You have it organized well in your company, the group that is responsible for that. And finally, are you doing any corporate social responsibility? Do you have any cause that you care about? Now, there are 9 lines, and 5 points is the maximum per line. So it's like asking, is there anyone here at 45 points? Don't feel, now, by the way, if we were all in the same company, it would have been very interesting to do, because what we find is that people within the company rate their own company quite differently. And we want to find out why. But here, we're in different companies. But let's say, I think you should be satisfied if you're at 30 or 35 as a number, which means you're doing a lot of 3s and 4s at least. If, in fact, you are down in the 20s, you're not a good marketing firm. It's your opinion, looking back, that you could do better marketing than that. Now, this question that the role of the marketer is not only to sell the present products, but to find new opportunities. So the word is opportunity identification as a prime responsibility, some of which will lead to innovations. Here's my list of places to look for opportunities. First, look in the old industries. Did you ever think that you might go to one of the old industries and find something new you could do in that old industry? Well, Starbucks entered an industry that's 500 years old that makes coffee. But they can not only be the top player in the retailing of coffee, but also charge higher prices than we ever thought you could charge for coffee. So they went into an old industry. Zara is in the making dresses and so on, and their turnover is wonderful. Any woman who sees a dress she likes in Zara better buy it, because it won't be there 2 weeks from now. That's a fast turnover company with women's fashions and so on. So is there an old industry? What about these new industries, robotics and others? Can you do something with those industries? Are there some opportunities for you? Can you use bioengineering to make a better medical device? What about other countries? Why are you only in Italy? You have Eastern Europe opened up, and they need it. Italy could have taken over, by doing so much of, bringing so much of their food and fashion and other ideas into Poland and into Czechoslovakia, the Czech Republic, etc. Should you go to Asia, do you have something that Thailand would like, Australia would like? Or is it too far? Maybe there won't be any profit in that. By the way, watch Africa, because I think that's the next place we will manufacture our goods. China's becoming expensive. They go to Laos and Cambodia to cut their costs. But the lowest costs will be manufacturing in African countries, and they are improving their economies. What about getting into helping poorer people by making something that would be good for them and good for you profit-wise? The $100 computer, sneakers for $1. And of course, the wonderful story of Mr. Tata, who not only runs Tata Informatics, but Tata Hotels, Tata Cars. Tata decided that he couldn't stand the idea of a whole family riding a motorcycle. He saw too many accidents where the motorcycle was carrying a mother, a father, and 3 children. He said they should have a covered motorcycle, a car. But I have to make a car that is affordable. Well, it's $2,500. So he built the Nano, which is quite a story in itself. He wanted to do something to improve the life of poor people, lower income markets. And by the way, a lot of General Electric's work now in Africa is to take their big devices to measure heart rate and to take pictures of things. They have downscaled the size of their equipment to make it affordable in the less expensive countries, and making it even portable. This could be a portable MRC or whatever you call it. You know, portability. General Electric's been very good at trying to adapt its products to lower cost countries. Are there opportunities at the higher end? If you are making an expensive product, like many of your great accomplishments are with the luxury industry. So aren't you going to be in China and Russia, where the billionaires have been cropping up? The billionaires need you. And that's why when you go land in the airport in China, you're passing Fendi and Prada and Gucci and so on, because there's a lot of money in those countries. There are opportunities in certain industries. The big ones, I think, is there's so much more to be done in health, in pharmaceuticals and devices and exercise and eating better and so on. Education. Education doesn't work anymore. Kids come out half illiterate. None of the kids coming out of your schools were ever given a course in financial literacy. Financial literacy, knowing how to borrow money, use it right. Energy, big market. So there are some big markets. And by the way, the people who end up making real money are the nichers. Niching. They find a group that isn't being served, and they become known as the best group to serve those people. Let me just see if I have, we're not going to go through, don't get paralyzed, we'll be here all day. But oh yeah, this is what I was going to say. 2 books that are very good, and this is all about identifying opportunities, but one opportunity that might be real good. Herman Simon, a good friend of mine, formerly a professor and now a consultant around the world. Look at his book, Hidden Champions. You are a hidden champion if you are not known by the public, but making millions of dollars, because you are the only one to make that solution, or the best one, always rated to be the best. And the real evidence that you're a hidden champion is you have a market share of 70% or more. So we're talking about hidden champions who have market shares of 70% or more. I'm taking just two examples. He has about 100 companies listed in the book, some of which were Italian. There's a company that makes the world's largest umbrellas. Now, you don't buy such an umbrella, but an outdoor cafe. And they want one that is strong, especially if it's going to be windy. You don't want to pay you better have insurance if the umbrella hits the people sitting under it. Another one makes the world's best military glasses. So all the armies of the world, the generals, they want to look at these very fine, expensive military glasses. But there's so many others. Many of them are technical companies making that. Now, Mark Penn, I discovered his book called Micro Trends. He lists about 100 different groups no one pays attention to, but they could be opportunities, especially for startup firms. I mean, maybe more for people who are looking for a startup idea. Working retirees, that's a contradiction. These are people who retired, so they're not working. No, they still want to be a part-time consultant. The problem is they don't have a desk or an office. And therefore, they need things. And it turns out there's a number of entrepreneurs have managed space. They can get you a space to have an office for a day. You can pay by the day. I mean, there's the computers there, there's a desk, there's even a secretary if you want to pay for that. And it's not like you have a fake office, you have a working office. So I made a suggestion to the hotel people yesterday. The working space is, a hotel normally has only 60% occupancy, let's say. That's 40% empty space. But I, as a working retired person, I'm not going to pay $300 for that room. So why let it go to waste? Give me a deal where I could buy it for $150 a day and have a place to work, because it has a desk. I'll bring my computer. So these are things. Now, what about left-handed people? Raise your hands if you're left-handed. Very few people, right? It's supposed to be 1 out of 7. Well, we are known as either more gifted than most people or dumber than most people. We're not in the middle. I'm left-handed too. And the reason is I have had to put up with right-handedness. Well, the products are made for right-handed people. So there's someone that runs a firm that makes all kinds of things better for left-handed people. Protestant Hispanics. How they ever left Catholicism and became Protestants, I don't know. But it's a community that may have some needs for certain products and services. Maybe they need a church. Start a church. That's a business. Could be. Whatever. But there's over 100 different groups. That's niche thinking. That's thinking of a slice of something. And when you become the leader in that niche, that's fine. Tell you what this is about, because I like this brother and this father and son. Lyndon is the father and Chris is his son, and they're from Australia. And they wrote The Customer Culture Imperative. And they really show you what it means to be good and focused on consumers, on customers. You can't read the chart, but they're scaling 7 things. Let me read what the things are. How good are you at customer insight? That's the one that is right at the far right, 60%. This is an actual company where a judgment was made on an estimate about, are they 100% good at everything you should do to get customer insight? They're 60% good. That's followed by a little different idea, customer foresight. It's one thing to have insight, but it's also to look ahead. Where are the customers moving? What are the new things that will affect them? So you should be good at both insight about their present state and where they will be moving. And then competitor insight. Of course you want to understand each competitor. Customer competitive foresight. Where will they be going next? And then peripheral vision. The company would be good if it not only focuses very intensely, it could be too myopic, it must see out of the side of its eyes. That's peripheral vision. In other words, see the adjacent markets and the things near your operations. Then, how good are you at collaboration, you and your retailers? 75%. And finally, would you say there's good strategic alignment in your business? The salespeople respect the marketing plan. The financial people give enough finance to the marketing plan. The company's got a clear strategy and is aligned. Now, the chapter in their book, the chapters hit each of those subjects and a lot of stories. If you're looking for stories on having customer insight, foresight, et cetera, that's why I mentioned that book. I did make an effort to ask, since I'm so tied to growth, the idea that we should be responsible for growth, I distinguish between 8 ways to grow. All of them are familiar to you. Acquisition, partnering with the public sector, public and private work, organic growth. I had 8 ways, but I do some discussion of, are you looking at what we call your vulnerabilities? Are you aware that you may be, like Kodak, destroyed by a new disruptive technology? Are you aware of disruption and vulnerability? And Kodak, of all companies, should have known because they invented the camera. They invented the digital camera. But they make their money from selling film. And others took their invention and really made it into the iPhone, the smartphone. So if you're going to find that there are some people to worry about and you're going to be disrupted, you should disrupt yourself first. Don't wait. That is, you must start a side business that's capable of running the way the disruptor's running. Now, let me take Clayton Christensen's view from Harvard of what really happens to you. You're a company that's pretty big. You're a steel company. You make all kinds of steel. Someone comes in to make a certain steel unit, a certain frame of steel, cheap, a little cheaper than you, and you decide to give up that part of the market because you never made much money in that part of the market, and they're a small fry. But that small fry then goes after another part of the market where you're not making much money. And they grow insidiously. You don't notice it, really. And they become really big. And you've been losing share after share of market because of giving away the ones that weren't very profitable. So they're creeping in on you, and suddenly they take over. He has many cases. Christensen has many cases of this process. So you should know vulnerability analysis and disruption. Opportunity analysis we talked about. I wish more companies would spend a little money on scenario planning, where it answers the question, in 5 years, where might you be in 5 years? Where are you headed? Where are you headed if you don't make any changes? My answer is, if you haven't changed anything in 5 years, you're going to be dead. And which scenario is the most likely? Because we have to bet on one of them. And usually the scenarios we face, one is pretty much dismal, that nothing good happens. Another would be optimistic. Another would be sort of in between. But at least it's for the thinking person. Just that your own senior people are thinking about where you might go with your bottled water or where you might go with your American Express company, scenario planning. And then you do forecasting. You have to have tools to make estimates of the value of different scenarios. The normal advice we give to companies is definitely keep making what you're making and do it well. Be a lean marketer, a precision marketer too, but also have some new projects, have some new opportunities in the works. Maybe also commit yourself to a very big goal. That's the dream. My pharmaceutical company is going to develop drugs to cure cancer or something like that. I mean, big dreams. A colony on Mars is a big dream. Now, most companies are not going to end up with a big dream, but it's exciting to all of us as customers and partners when we're working in a company that has a big dream. What about maybe I don't want a toothpaste, I want to spray something else. I don't want to shave, but I want to be shaved without shaving. I mean, sort of how to solve some problems in a creative way. So let me end with this summary of the CMO, because we think, I call the CMO the master of growth, which puts a different face on what a marketer is supposed to be about. By the way, another thing we say of CMOs is that they are masters of the valuable, because product innovators are masters of the possible. They show us something's possible to make, but they never think how much it costs and whether it will be bought. They have to go to the marketer to know who's a master of value of the valuable. And you put together the master of the possible and the master of the valuable, you have innovation. So the CMO tenure got shorter, but I explained that marketing is more than communications. Marketing should be headed by someone who in the old days was going to be very good at research and advertising, particularly advertising. And today, your head person should be good at data analytics, customization, personalization, and optimization, and able to drive very complex campaigns and activities. And you owe it to us to show what the marketing return on investment, MROI, was. And we know that the CMO is always on the firing line. If sales don't move the way they should, he won't keep his job. You don't fire the finance guy. Who takes it on the chin when sales growth doesn't happen? Marketing people. And that the good chief marketing officers should not spend all their time with their marketing people doing good things and bringing new technologies. Spend half the time with the other chiefs so they get respect for what you are capable of doing in the marketing, and they are partners of yours. And so spend as much time as you can with the CEO, the finance head, the information technology person, and the sales vice president. Incidentally, on the last two, it happens that some companies are putting the information business, the IT business, under marketing, which is strange. But at Motorola, a very technical company, IT reports to the head of marketing, which is their image that marketing is so data intensive, they should run the IT department. And then taking sales, please treat your Salesforce vice president as such a partner who helps develop the marketing strategy. The worst thing is to say to the sales guy, all you are is in sales, we've taken care of everything, you meet the quota, you accept our advertising, you accept our price, and you'll be well off. And that's a terrible way to treat the sales force, to make them just selling. They want to have they have so many ideas, and they would like to be part of the shaping of the marketing plan. And then you've got a real partnership. Okay, those are some of the things that I wanted to share with you. Let me stop and say this. It would be nice if I could answer questions. And in fact, it's even possible to do it in Italian if someone is next to me and gives me the English of your question. But I would prefer the questions in English if possible. Do we have some microphones available? Just one? Two? So is there anyone that wants to, the best thing that could happen to me is you disagree with everything I said, so I can learn better. I love to be challenged. So maybe you don't agree about the role of marketing and this and that. Is there anyone, but you don't have to ask that kind of question. You may want to ask about a source. What book might do a good treatment of, let's say, sales promotion or something? Any questions? Just raise your hands and we'll get a microphone over to you. Who wants to ask the first question? Who wants to ask the second question? So if we don't get any questions, we'll, of course, talk to each other, and then I'll be available up here, but let's just see if anyone has a question. Now, someone is brave enough to ask a question. In France, they don't ask questions, by the way, and this is not France. Their reason is they know everything. They don't want to be embarrassed to say they don't know something. Okay. Oh, yes, what you're saying, and this is Marco Raspati, who's my good, dear friend, and I can hear it in either language. Your question
I have a question for you.
And English or Italian?
English.
Good.
Okay.
Where are you? I'm trying to...
Here, in the first line.
Oh, yeah, just wave to me. Wave to me.
On your, yeah.
Oh. Okay, good.
Which is the role of media relations in your plan, your opinion?
Yeah.
Now, with the...
Now, what media, there's two types of media. When we handle what was called advertising, we have to have an advertising agency, and then there's the media of the news media, for which we should have a public relations operation. I think you mean the PR? Yeah.
PR.
I think PR...
Nowadays, I mean, with media and traditional and digital ones.
Well, first of all, let me say that public relations is the stepson of marketing. There's a lot of overlap between what the public relations people are doing and what you're trying to do. The PR people want to get your name out there and your accomplishments and nice stories about you in all the media, and that's what you're trying to do too. I have great respect for public relations. I do some work with what is the best PR firm I know, and that's Edelman Associates. Edelman is the only still independent public relations firm. The rest of them have been gathered into the big advertising agencies like WPP and so on. Media relations are very important and often forgotten. For example, I gave a talk about my 2 books on capitalism and democracy, only to find out that, and we had an exciting discussion with 4 other discussants, it should have been in the newspaper. Really, it would get you stimulated to think about the state of our capitalism and so on. And we forgot to get a journalist. We forgot to talk to the media to cover the event. Now, every company gets into events. Internal events and events with customers or others. And they better, and now here's the problem. You can't just get news from Republica or some journal by just asking for it. You've got to cultivate the news makers. And like in my own university, I will send them some article I wrote, and I will say, can you get it into the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times? And they have very good relations. They may be able to do it. But if they just go as another company saying, here's a press release, it may not be accepted. So I think every company needs not only external public relations, but needs internal public relations. And by the way, that's a job of someone finding out what's happening in your company and having a newsletter for your employees and for your partners, for your retailers. So media work, there's much more to say, but I'm glad you raised the question because we tend to forget how important it could be in shaping the story of your company. Any other questions? Yes, sir. You have a mic here?
Very shortly, and what about the relationship between corporate social responsibility and marketing?
Yes. The marketers would probably say they would benefit from having a cause that would just make them more welcome into a lot of places, not only to customers, but to other dealers. They can use it to get some excitement from the cause by some partners. So marketing would probably either just say that's fine if someone in the company, the CEO, decided on that kind of cause, but I think it's going to be left to marketing to find the cause that's right for the company. Do you want to ask the CFO for the right cause? Maybe he or she could give a cause. By the way, you don't just adopt a cause, you really think carefully about it. For example, what about the cause of obesity? Some people eat too much and so on and so forth. You may even be a company making a product that is like Coca-Cola, too much sugar and so on. Coca-Cola going down now a little bit. That could be a cause. You have to think very carefully about really caring and mapping what you're going to do for that cause. The best example of doing a good job was the Avon Corporation of personal selling from house to house by women to women about good products that they might like. Women as a market would respond to a cause like breast cancer as a problem, and Avon has raised almost $500 million through getting people to think about treatment, prevention, and it was a very natural fit to what is a cause that they should be in. General Motors should be in a cause that has to do with traffic congestion. They should do their best to help us design roads for their cars so that we don't have that problem. So I think marketing will get very involved, maybe the prime mover of finding the cause. If you think it's a differentiator too, it's good in itself, but it also adds more customer interest. Any other questions? I see there's 1 and 2. And yes, thank you. Vittoria, you're wonderful. And Sarah, too. It says that we're going to have Alberto Mattiazzi help us, too, with the answer of questions, too, shortly. But I will take these 2 or 3 questions, and we'll see. Good. Come on the stage. We're going to...
What are the motion?
Hey, you know what I just thought of? I'm going to make you answer the questions.
No. I go with it.
But you'll be with us, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to look at 1 or 2 more questions? And
yes,
then you
yes,
could
course.
also answer your answers along with mine, if you want.
Okay.
Wave your hand if you are now about to ask a question. We're going to get... who has the mic? Good. It's your turn.
Can you hear me? Okay. You mentioned you mentioned about Leonardo Spirit. What are your recommendations for our country to improve our ability to teach innovation relating our country?
Yes. My answer to that is no country is very successful at doing this, unfortunately, and it goes back to public education. School has so much to teach, so the students spend so much time just sitting learning. I'd like schools to be more project-oriented. And when you're on a project to solve some problem, some in the group will be innovative, and that will be contagious. They'll see that, hey, why does Joe always come up with an idea? Look at how everyone respects Joe because he just thinks about this. I got to be like that. So I don't know if there's an actual course you can give in the primary school, the high school. Yes, I think if kids had an option to sign up for a course called Innovation and would be put in a team with other kids, 4 kids, and they think of something to invent and have to make a marketing plan and so on. And they have a 3D printer in the classroom. They have to make the object. And they have to sell it on the streets near the Vatican or something. Maybe it's a cross or something, who knows. Basically, education, have we got teachers who would be excited about teaching innovation to a bunch of kids or high school? Because in college, we do have courses where we talk about innovation and so on. But think about it. That's not a business opportunity because it's a state problem. Okay. Do you think? Yeah. Okay. Good. And I'm going to take one more question before. Yeah. You had your hand.
Fate le domande se volete anche in italiano, non siete timidi, insomma, l'importante è che facciamo domande. Abbiamo una signorina lì.
This will be my last question.
Next one is...
Okay. My question is related to talent wastes in a company. So since you is one of the worst wastes and is something that is managed by HR chief, and you said that a good CMO has to spend 50% of his time together with the other chiefs. What a great CMO could do together with the chief of HR?
Oh, it's a very good question because that HR is a very important function, hiring the right people. And in fact, we don't want the marketing head to say to HR, get me a great person with digital. Just to say that, the HR person, if he or she's great, would say, what do you need from digital? There's so much to it. Do you want a mathematician who is able to develop software that would do artificial intelligence on the data? Or do you want just someone who is very good at Facebook and a few of those other things? So the HR person has to work as a partner with the marketing person for any requests for marketing talent, including this finding a CMO. I can see one of you may have a great CMO and will be rated, it will be found out by a good HR person that you've got the top CMO and they go after taking away your CMO. Please, the main answer is that the marketing people should be very interested in what is being delivered by the HR people in terms of talent and so on. Thank you.
Si alzi in piedi, per favore.
Well, this is the third and last, and then I'm going to sit down and enjoy hearing.
No, they are here to listen to you, not to me.
Hi.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I'm curious to understand from you, what do you think about the role of marketing in the B2B2C business?
Yes. Actually, the B2B business, you mean?
The B2B and then maybe also B2B2C.
Everything yeah, because after the B2B goes to C, of course. Yeah. Let's take this fact. Most business is B2B business. When you make a pair of shoes to sell to a final user, you had to have B2B business with leather people, with people who make shoelaces, people who make soles for the shoes. So most of the world is B2B. Unfortunately, my students don't know many of those companies, so I use consumer companies. But B2B companies are less sophisticated in marketing, but they're very sophisticated in sales. And they have to use sales very well, but they don't know enough about branding themselves. I have a book called B2B Branding, and I list on the cover the 20 best brand builders companies in B2B. I list, for example, at the top, DuPont. DuPont is not only well known as a chemical company, but everything they make, they give a name to. So they're not only a brand, but they make sub-brands. So if you buy a sofa, you want it to have Stainmaster. So if you spill coffee on your couch or sofa, it won't matter. It won't hurt the sofa. So they invented Stainmaster. They have 12 or 20 brands themselves. They're a brand maker. But then I list all the other companies like Michelin, which is very good at branding, because why do we always want a car to have a Michelin tire if it isn't because they got us to believe they make safety? They're basically, they use children and they show that your children are safer in a car with Michelin tires. So I wrote that B2B book. Then I realized a lot of companies approached me to say they have something that goes into another product that is not visible, like NutraSweet is part of what makes Coca-Cola taste sweet artificially. NutraSweet says, how do I get people to insist with drinks that have NutraSweet as the artificial? So I wrote a whole book called Ingredient Branding. When you have an ingredient that is not very visible, but like Gore-Tex, I don't want to buy any jacket that isn't made out of Gore-Tex. So the title of the book, the subtitle is Making the Invisible Visible, and so on. So I'm glad you raised B2B, because we could also talk about service businesses, we could talk about nonprofit organizations, and public agencies. So I'm going to be seated. And I'm going to just
there is
say...
a last question.
No, we have...
a break. Oh, you've been sitting a long time.
Another question here, then we take a seat and...
All right, fine. So this will be the last question?
Yes.
For the moment, yes.
The last question for the moment. I'm in your hands, whatever you say.
I'm an old student, and I would like to go back to the marketing management, your book of 1967. I think besides other important things that you did, that the most exceptional contribution to the science of marketing has been to have liberated the marketing itself from a sales concept and or from a function working for itself. Now, this morning, Professor Pellegrini gave a translation of marketing that is probably too narrow. He talked about communication, how to communicate to the market. In your first book, Marketing Management, the first in English, the first word translated the second, marketing management means a way of doing management according to a philosophy of marketing. So it's the whole company that is reviewed with a mind of marketing. It's the only way for a company to survive. Another thing that I really disagree with you, Professor Kotler, is when today you added other P's, you didn't call them P's, to the magical 4 P's.
Okay.
For example, when you talked about sales promotion, more than insurance, all these adding, I should see them in the 4 P's.
Yes, they were there, but it was like people would even say, thank you, I'm going to respond. They would even say, where is people in the 4 Ps? Where is some of the other things? What you're saying about that is that a science gets maybe understood by more people to have a nice formulation of what it's about, and you personally, as someone who might even teach marketing or at least use it, would prefer not to change the 4 Ps, but to keep them and allow all these other things to be part of each P as it comes up. And that is a good possibility that we should keep it, else we'll have a mixture of 22 things that influence the sale, right? Which no one can think about. Now, your first point, that I separated marketing from being sales, and from just being writing about something, I agree with you that and you went further, and do you know there is a company that actually calls itself a marketing company? That's P&G. Procter & Gamble describes itself as a company based on marketing. We are good at finding and serving customers for the things that they need, that we will make for them. And in fact, marketing is now getting a new view of the customer. The customer is not only a consumer. The customer is a prosumer. Now, did you ever see the term prosumer? You remember? It came from Alvin Toffler's book. Alvin Toffler, the great science fiction, well, not science fiction, but had a strategic vision of what's happening in the world. He said, we're becoming prosumers. And now with the internet, I can publish. Every one of you could publish. You answer, you're on Facebook, you answer your friends. You could put out your own essays. You could put out you could sell a service. We could all be entrepreneurs on the internet. We all could have online businesses on the internet with very little capital because we have a following. We're doing something that's followed. So we should become marketing companies. We could. And your point is well taken that maybe the whole company should see itself, its future depends on knowing that they are marketing companies. And all the functions are serving not the marketing department, but the company and the customer. Thank you very much.